Wase wengi wakipicture serial killer, they imagine a man, mse ako charming, calculated, mse ako capable of hiding unimaginable violence behind an ordinary smile. For decades, hiyo ndio image ilishaped criminal investigation across America. Lakini in the late 1980s, that profile changed. On the highways of Florida, police walikuwa wanatafuta serial killer like no other before. The victims walikuwa men. They all appeared connected because the weapon was the same. And the suspect was a woman. And her name, Aileen Wuornos. Kwa wase wengine, she was one of America's most ruthless serial killers. To others, alikuwa victim of abuse whose life turned into unimaginable violence. More than 3 decades later, story yake inaendelea kudivide psychologists, investigators na the public. Was she a cold-blooded predator? Ama was she a deeply traumatized woman whose life had been shaped by years of abuse, neglect and survival? Leo tunaangalia the evidence, the victims, the investigation and the life of the woman who forever changed the way investigators looked at serial killers. This is the story of Aileen Wuornos. By the 1980s, FBI walikuwa wanaamini wana understand serial killers. Most were male, many targeted strangers. Wengine waliishi very ordinary lives wakicommit very horrific crimes in secret. Female serial killers walikuwa considered extremely rare. When women did kill repeatedly, investigators walikuwa wanaamini their motives were different. Financial gain, family members, sio strangers along isolated highways. Hiyo assumption ilikuwa karibu kuwa challenged. Across Central Florida, truck drivers, salesmen, travelers walikuwa na move through hundreds of miles of open highway every day. Ilikuwa a place where strangers crossed paths for only a few minutes before disappearing into the night. Few could have imagined that those same roads zingekuja kuwa the setting for one of America's most controversial murder cases. Juu somewhere among the truck stops, the motels, and the endless stretches of the highway, a killer was waiting, and almost nobody was looking for a woman. Long before the headlines, before the courtrooms, na before dunia ijue jina yake, Aileen Wuornos alikuwa a child growing up in an unstable world. She was born on February 29, 1956 in Rochester, Michigan. Hata before ajifunze kutembea, familia yake ilikuwa ina fall apart already. Her parents separated before she was born. Her father alikuwa later convicted of serious crimes and died while serving a prison sentence. Goes without saying, Aileen hakuwahi jua baba yake. Yeye na bro wake walikuwa eventually left in the care of their grandparents, but stability never came. Wase walikuwa wanamjua earlier walidescribe childhood yake through words like neglect, violence and emotional hardship. As she grew older, mambo ya shule ikakuwa extremely difficult. Alistruggle sana kufit in, and most times alikuwa very isolated. In her teenage years, maisha yake ilikuwa very chaotic, na hapo ndio aliacha shule. Most times walikuwa homeless na survival ikakuwa more important than planning for the future. Investigators wanasema her early experiences zilikuwa extremely significant to the person she became. Lakini trauma pekee haiwezi explain violence. Millions of people wanna go through unimaginable hardship without harming others. Na kuelewa past ya mtu sio the same as excusing their future actions. Still, kuelewa venye Aileen Wuornos alikuja kuwa one of America's most infamous killers ni impossible kuignore mahali story yake ilianza. Because the next chapter of her life will take her hundreds of miles south to the highways of Florida, na hapo ndio maisha yake ilichange completely. By the mid-1980s, Florida had become Aileen's home. Not because she had found peace there, but because it was another place where survival came one day at a time. Ali skipped from town to town staying in cheap motels, sometimes she slept in the forest, and sometimes in abandoned buildings. To survive, Ali relied largely on sex work, often meeting clients along highways and truck stops. It was a dangerous way to live. Every encounter felt like a date with danger. Every stranger represented both an opportunity and a risk. Then in 1986, life yake ikatake an unexpected turn. She met Tyria Moore. The two women quickly formed a close relationship na wakakuwa deeply attached to one another. For a time, Aileen appeared happier than she had been in years, but life remained unstable. Money was scarce. The couple moved frequently, and Aileen continued with prostitution for both of them to survive. Haikuwa clear if their financial pressure contributed to what happened next. Lakini what is certain is that by late 1989, Florida investigators were about to uncover a pattern that will shock the world. On December 13, 1989, authorities discovered the body of Richard Mallory in a wooded area in Volusia County, Florida. He had been shot multiple times. At first, it appeared to be an isolated homicide, lakini just months later, another body was found. Then another, and another. The victims hawakuwa na any relation, different backgrounds, different professions, different parts of the country. Lakini detectives waka notice very disturbing similarities. Each victim alikuwa an adult man, na most walikuwa last seen traveling through central Florida, na several had been shot with the same caliber weapon, and many of their vehicles had disappeared. As investigators connected the evidence, a pattern slowly emerged. David Spears, Charles Cascadon, Peter Sims, Troy Barres, Charles Humphreys, Walter Antonio, 7 men, 7 deaths. Investigations really expand across multiple counties. Detectives waka interview witnesses, examined ballistic evidence, traced the stolen vehicles, and with every new discovery, the pressure mounted. Media warned residents that a serial killer could be operating across Florida's highways. Lakini investigators still walikuwa wana face one huge problem. They didn't know who they were looking for. Because almost every assumption they had made about serial killers pointed toward a male suspect. And in this case, those assumptions were wrong. Breakthrough ilikuja from an unexpected source. Not a fingerprint, not DNA, but a trail left behind by stolen property. One that would eventually lead detectives to 2 women, and one of them, Aileen Wuornos. As investigators piece together the evidence, a clear pattern finally began to emerge. Several of the victims' cars had been stolen after the killings. Zenye zilikuwa later recovered. Inside those vehicles, detectives walipata fingerprints, pawn shop records, na witnesses who remembered seeing 2 women together. One lead lead to another. Then came the breakthrough. Investigators identify one of the women as Tyria Moore, lakini they did not arrest her immediately. Police choose a different strategy. Managed to persuade Tyria Moore to cooperate with the investigation. She finally agreed and she contacted Aileen by telephone from a monitored location. The conversations zikakuwa carefully recorded. During the calls, Tyria Moore repeatedly urged Aileen to surrender. Akamwambia already polisi walikuwa wanajua kila kitu, na kukimbia would only make it worse. At first, Aileen alikuwa very cautious, but as conversations continued, the pressure ikakuwa impossible to ignore. And on January 9, 1991, Aileen Wuornos was arrested at a biker bar known as the Last Resort in Volusia County, Florida. The manhunt was finally over, but the most difficult questions ndio tu zilikuwa zinaanza. Once in custody, Aileen confessed to the killings and insisted that there was an important detail investigators walikuwa wana ignore. Claimed every shooting had been an act of self-defense. According to her, the men had either attacked her or attempted to sexually assault her while she was working as a prostitute. On the other hand, prosecutors walikuwa wanaangalia hii kesi very differently. They argued the evidence showed a pattern of robbery followed by murder. Jury pia ikasikiza testimony from investigators, forensic experts na the witnesses connected to the case. The first trial will focus on the death of Richard Mallory. After deliberation, the jury found Aileen Wuornos guilty of first-degree murder na akakuwa sentenced to death. In the years that followed, Ali pleaded guilty to the remaining murders. As time passed, behavior yake ikakuwa increasingly unpredictable. In interviews, she made contradictory statements, sometimes insisting she acted in self-defense. At other times, alikuwa express anger, paranoia, and distrust towards nearly everyone around her. Mental health experts continue to debate the extent to which trauma, personality disorders, and other psychological factors influenced her actions. Those discussions continue today, but they do not change one undeniable fact. 7 men lost their lives. 7 families were left searching for answers that could never fully come. Aileen Wuornos' story defies simple answers. She endured unimaginable trauma. She also took 7 lives. One truth does not erase the other. More than 30 years later, one question remains. Was she born violent or shaped by the life she lived? Perhaps the better question is, how many warning signs were missed before it was too late? Manze ni mie wenyu, Joe Bag.